Sometimes grace is, I can't change what happened, but I can offer you the opportunity to live again in a way you never thought was possible. I wish that would have never happened. I wish that your life would have been preserved. I wish it would have stayed protected, but my grace is sufficient enough to help you understand that on the other side of this heartbreak, there is a life again, and that life still allows you to be fruitful and multiply. God, I stepped out on faith and it felt like it was good, but now it feels like I'm sinking and I'm drowning. God, help me to understand how could good turn out to be evil. God, are you crazy enough to believe that what you meant for evil, my God meant for good? His grace towards me was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all. I see exchange here. I am the least of them, but God gave me the grace of God. I am what I am. He changed my identity. And then when he changed his identity, when he changed my identity, says Paul, when he changed the way that I saw myself, when he changed the way I saw what he was doing in the earth, I decided that his grace toward me would not be in vain. Because grace comes with a responsibility. Because I don't feel entitled to grace just because you allowed me to have grace on credit. God help me. Some people in this room got grace on credit. God says, I'm going to give you grace first. And then when you step into the grace, I want you to live in such a way that I know that my grace was not in vain, that you recognize what this is. Because if you recognize what this is, you won't do that again. That's why we can love people with grace for real. I don't have to condemn you to make sure you don't make the same mistake over and over again. I just got to be so good to you that you never want to be bad to yourself again. I just got to be so good to you that you never want to go back to who you were before. It is the grace of God, the goodness of God that kept showing up in his life that says, now I feel obligated. What can I render unto you, God, for all that you have done to me? I feel obligated. I am a slave to the gospel, not because I did everything right, not because he actually chained me, but because he kept chasing me with his grace. And I finally turned around and I said, God, don't you know I'm raggedy? God, don't you know I'm bad? God, don't you know you could get somebody else, but you keep chasing me into this bar. You keep chasing me into this strip club. God, what is it that you want with me? God, what is it that you can do with these? Hallelujah. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 9. That's my scripture right there. Paul is expressing right before this how he's got this thorn in his flesh. Oh God, I feel like you want to do something in this place. God, I could almost be used, but I got this thorn in my flesh. God, I could almost be of use, but there's this thing that's piercing my soul. I could almost be like them. I could almost be perfect. I could almost hold my head up high. I could almost be in ministry. I could almost lay it down. And Jesus says to him, my grace. Once again, we're not talking about grace the way we've come to know it in church. We're talking about an exchange. This exchange that I made is sufficient for you because my strength is made perfect in weakness. That means that if you make this exchange the right way, it won't matter what the thorn is. It won't matter where you're weak. All that'll matter is that you made an exchange with me. You give me weakness and I give you strength. You give me freedom and I will give you a real call and a purpose. If you give it to me, I'll transform it. God says, I want to marry your weakness. Put it back on the screen for me. I want you to give me your weakness. I want you to give it to me. Don't give it to them. See, the reason that most of us end up with our hearts broken It's because we were giving our weakness to other weak people. And we were hoping that if I give you my weakness, I'll finally feel strong. But Jesus says the reason why you needed him to walk away, the reason why you needed her to disappoint you, is because you wanted her to do what only I could do. You wanted the job to be what only I could be. You wanted the check to do what only I can do. And that's why you're rich and still upset. And that's why you drugged out and still ain't got no peace. There is no drug greater than my grace. There ain't a drink on earth that can make you strong in the area you've been weak. It can help you forget. It can help you walk away. But if you want to be strong for real, you got to take that weakness and say, God, here I am, Lord. Here I am with my weak self. Here I am with my broke self. Here I am with my shattered self. The moment they call me, I go running out the door. I don't want to be weak anymore. I don't want to be weak like this anymore. This weakness is messing up my destiny. This weakness is messing up my family. This weakness is changing the way I see myself. This weakness is about to keep me from being who you've called me to be. You got to go to war with your weakness, because your weakness gonna mess you up. But when you decide that I won't let a weak thing keep me from a God thing, the weakness, it's in the way. It's in the way. That weakness is in the way. And you don't just get it out of the way by ignoring it. And you don't get it out of the way by pretending you're going to be confident in the place where you are weak. You can't affirm yourself out of this weakness. You can't post yourself out of this weakness. The only thing you can do with a weakness is yoke it up to something stronger than the area where you're weak. His name is Jesus. Oh God, I didn't got his name. Paul says, I knew I was weak, but when I got this revelation that my weakness can have a companion, my weakness can have a companion, and that companion is his strength. When I got that revelation, I did something crazy. I started boasting in my infirmities, because the more I boast about it, the more he breathes on it, and the more he breathes on it, the power of God rests upon me. His strength was made perfect in the place where I experienced hell. You standing in evidence. Oh God, that's not my message. And I'm trying to calm down. But I just gotta let you know that you standing in the room where hell tried to attack me. You standing in the room where hell said, I'ma get her pregnant so she never opens her mouth. At 13 years old, I'ma put her in a room and tell her you'll never have access to the gift of God you see in everybody else. And heaven said, one day she gonna give me all that hell she went through. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry if you visited for the first time. I'm sorry. You don't even know me like that. But let me tell you something. I know something about the grace of God. I know something about the goodness of God. I know I don't have no business in this place. Okay. I'm going to boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. I'm not going to whisper about these infirmities. I'm not going to ignore these infirmities. I'm going to make an exchange. I give God my weakness, my doubt, my insecurity, my need to perform. I want your weakness. this exchange that we make with God requires that we really see the little bit of value that we bring. I have to tell you, culturally, this is challenging because culturally, we do live in a world that requires we find our confidence, that we find the best version of ourselves. And sometimes we get so high off our own supply that we don't see the gap between who we are and who God is. And you start to think to yourself, maybe I'm not that bad. I mean, I did do this, I did do that. But it is the grace of God, not the grace of man, that makes the difference. And just because you got favor in the eyes of man doesn't mean you did anything to get favor in the eyes of God. God is not impressed with what you have. God is impressed with all of who you are. And yet God gave me this text about grace because he wanted me to understand that though grace is not the star of the Old Testament, grace is running in the background of the Old Testament. We see the word grace, the Hebrew word for grace, mentioned for the first time in Genesis 6. When God has looked at the earth and said, I'm so sorry that I made them. It says in Genesis 6, he looked at all of the earth and he was sorry that he made them. He says, but Noah found grace in his eyes. This concept of grace is not what we know of it now. This is the first time we see grace, and it taught me something about the way that grace is running in the background of the Old Testament. It taught me that ultimately, when Noah found grace in God's eye, that he found the ability to give to Noah what he could give to no one else. He found favor in God's eyes. And the thing about this is that it doesn't tell us much about Noah. It doesn't say that Noah was necessarily the most righteous man, the most faithful, that he did everything the right way. But there was something about Noah's heart posture that when God looked at him, he found grace. Oh God, that's a word within itself. Sometimes we are concerned about who we are connected to because we are afraid that who we are connected to may dissuade people in some way from wanting to be connected with us. But there is something to be said about man looking at the outward appearance, but God looking at the heart. God says, I know how to get through all of the mess that you're around to see the virtue and the favor that is still down on the inside of you. How did God decipher that Noah was the one? Because Noah understood something about God that other people didn't. It says that Noah found favor in God's eyes. What this taught me about the mystery of grace is that grace wasn't just something that we receive from God in the New Testament. It also taught me that when we find grace in God's eyes, that oftentimes grace makes the first move. God help me. Help me to say this the right way. Man, I got to unpack this the way God gave it to me. When Noah finds grace in God's eyes, he gives Noah a download about what is to come. This helped me to understand that too often we see grace as a one-off. That there is grace that is confined to a particular situation. That God showed me grace in this one instance. And even when we talk about Noah finding grace in God's eyes, we kind of limit it to him giving the instruction that the flood is coming and he built the ark, and we kind of make it seem that that is the end of grace. But what I learned in reading this text is that when Noah found grace in God's eyes, that ultimately God invited him into a lifestyle of grace. Yeah. Because it's not just grace for you to be preserved. It also takes grace for you to build something you've never seen before. It requires grace for you to understand that there's going to be an element that you've never experienced that's going to hit the earth. It doesn't just take grace to get onto the ark and build the ark. There's a special kind of grace that also happens when the flood has withdrawn. And now I have to build my life again. He invited him into a lifestyle of grace. And as long as we see grace as temporary, we will never give the level of obedience that unlocks a lifestyle of grace that allows us to stand in moments we would have never had access to. But for the grace of God, now I'm living a lifestyle of grace. I want to prophesy over somebody in this room that the moment that you recognize that you have found grace in the eyes of the Lord, that you have a responsibility to be obedient to that grace. I don't know who you are in this room, but God has told you time after time, I have graced you for this. I have graced you for something in the earth that only you can do. And you want to understand what's on the other side of the grace. I know I'm talking to somebody in this section because I keep getting pulled over here. I know that I have graced you for something, but you'll never see the fullness of what I have graced you for until you are obedient to the yes that is required in this moment. Maybe you're over here too, and God has graced you for something like Noah. I found grace in the eyes of the Lord, and I keep seeing this grace, but I don't trust this grace. I don't trust the grace that I found in the eyes of the Lord. Oh. So I would rather believe that grace is a one-off, that it saved me once, than to believe that there is grace for me to unpack in my life. Jesus, help me. Can you imagine, though we see grace for the first time as a word in Genesis 6, the first act of grace is really in Genesis 3. After Adam and Eve have eaten from the fruit, Jesus told them, God told them in Genesis 2, if you eat from this tree, you will surely die. That was the rule. That was the law. And they broke it, but they did not die. They got results that they didn't deserve, even though they broke the rules. And instead of them really dying, now an animal that was minding its business has to die to cover the thing that they should have never been in the first place. If that's grace, I don't know. If that's not grace, I don't know what is. Because how are you covering something that I messed up? Oh, God, see, some of you, oh, Jesus, this is my word. Y'all can just hear my word. You see, there are some messes I got myself into. There are some things that God shouldn't have had to cover at all. There were some things where I should have thrown myself down at the mercy of the court and say, God, I did that, and whatever punishment I get is the one that I've earned. But God says, I'm actually not going to punish you. I'm going to cover you in a way that you could have never covered yourself. You took those little fig leaves and tried to cover that mistake you made. God says, I got something more durable to cover you. I got something that cannot be shaken. And I want you to sit back and look at the lengths I will go to cover you. God took an animal that did nothing wrong at all, but said, because I got to cover my child, I'm going to tell you this, and it might be a little bit, I don't know, it might be a little bit wrong to tell you, but I want you to know that there were people who will end up paying the consequences for what you did. And that's how you know that the grace of God is with you, because it really shouldn't have been them that lost their job. You owned up to the mistake and everything, but some kind of way God still preserved you. There were people who end up paying consequences for things that you should have been paying the consequence for. Some of you ought to be in jail. Some of you ought to be in the hospital. Some of you ought to be on food stamps and working from check to check, but somebody else is paying for consequences that didn't have anything to do with what they did. But because God said, for some reason, I'm going to cover you, and I'm going to... What I find interesting about this, in Genesis, when God shows them grace by slaughtering this animal to cover them, he does kick them out of the garden. And it proves to me that a version of their lives did die. Their life itself didn't die. But there was a version of life as they knew it that ended in that moment. It helped me understand another mystery of grace that I think is important for all of us to know. That even though life as you know it may have ended, maybe you're not in the same city. Maybe that person is never coming back to life. Grace is not always about keeping that life alive. Sometimes grace is about showing you how to live again in a new world. Their life didn't end the way that it should have, but God paves the way for them to experience life again. That's grace too. Is that you can have joy again, that you can have peace again. Not that the situation goes back to being what it was, but sometimes grace is, I can't change what happened, but I can offer you the opportunity to live again in a way you never thought was possible. I wish that would have never happened. I wish that your life would have been preserved. I wish it would have stayed protected, but my grace is sufficient enough to help you understand that on the other side of this heartbreak, there is a life again, and that life still allows you to be fruitful and multiply, and that life still allows you to have dominion. I got a plan. And this is why we've got to acknowledge that grace does exist in the Old Testament, because Jesus was the lamb slain before the foundation of the world, which means that even in Genesis and even through all of the Old Testament, when we see God giving chance after chance after chance, that what we're really seeing is him setting up a template of grace where you don't always do the right thing and you don't always get the right yeses. But because I so believe in who you can become, I'm going to show you that there's life after mistakes. I'm going to show you there's life when you should have been dead. There are some of you in this room who are sitting next to a corpse and you don't even know it, but because God allowed them to live again, that thing that is sitting next to you is someone who has been resurrected. That thing sitting next to you is someone who had suicidal thoughts and thought, I shouldn't be here. You sitting next to a corpse. I didn't even want to live to see another day, but for some reason the grace of God gave me another chance, and now the life that I'm living is really not my own. The life that I'm living is the life that I was resurrected to embody. The life that I'm living is the life that God said, if you can just hang on and survive, I'm going to bring you back to life. I want to prophesy to somebody in this room, and you've been feeling like you're on your last leg. You've been feeling like this life is over. You've been feeling like there is nothing else for you to do in the earth because you've made so many mistakes, because you've been the victim of so many mistakes. And I hear God saying that I can bring you back to life. I hear God saying that resurrecting power, there's grace on the other side of this for you to live again. I don't know who stole from you. I don't know who betrayed you. I don't know what betrayal you allowed to happen on your own. But I hear God saying that there is life after your shame. There is life after your heartbreak. There is grace for you to live again. I dare you to take a deep breath and let the devil know you should have killed me when you had the chance, but for some reason he keeps breathing air into my lungs. I hear God saying that your breath is a threat to the enemy, because your breath is a reminder that my grace is still sufficient. Your breath is a reminder that though he slay me, I can still trust in him. Your breath is a reminder that he's not finished with me yet. My story is still being written. Heaven is still rejoicing when I wake up in the morning. Hell tried to unleash hell on me, but heaven kept pulling me back. Heaven kept chasing me down. I think I'm gonna go on and live again. I think I'm gonna go on and try again. I think I'm gonna go on and elect myself to get back in position so that I can become all that God has called me to be. I think I'm gonna try anyway. I think I can still be fruitful. I don't know who you are. You've been in a drought, but I hear God saying get ready for rain, because the moment you get a revelation that my grace sees past your drought, I'm going to unlock the windows of heaven and I'm going to pour you out a blessing that you don't have room enough to receive. What is that blessing? That blessing is getting your mind back. That blessing is getting your heart back. That blessing is getting your hunger back. We always say the enemy, you meant it for evil, but God turned it for good. But that's not what it says. It says you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. There were two intentions that were happening at the same time. So when we say that God turned it, it makes it seem like it did start off evil, but then God turned it around. No. Genesis 50:20 actually points out that it's not that God turned it. It's just all while they thought it was evil, I actually thought it was good. I'm reminded of Jesus on the cross when he said, "Forgive me, Father, for they know not what they do." They think that they're doing something that's good, but I actually know that it's going to be even better, because when you get finished with it, they think it's evil, but when you get finished, they're going to see that it was actually good. There is something powerful about knowing that there are two intentions moving at the same time. And so I want to know, Potter's House, which narrative are you going to buy into? Are you going to buy into the narrative that they meant it for evil, and there's a period on what they meant for evil, and that if God's going to change it, he's going to have to turn it? Or are you crazy enough to believe that God doesn't even have to turn it? That even, oh God, I feel like I know you mean one thing, but God means another thing. So you can keep your intentions. God doesn't have to change it. You can mean it for evil. God still means it for good. You can talk about me all you want to, but God still means it for good. I didn't have to get the job. It felt like it was evil that I didn't get the job, but God must have meant it for good. It felt like it was tragic that I went through the breakdown, but God meant it for good. I got to hang on to this truth that God meant it for good, because my mind is trying to convince me that God meant it for evil, or that God was not in it at all. But I am reminded, because of who he is, that he knows how to allow the wheat and the tare to grow up at the same time. And it is not until harvest season where the threshing floor will make the difference. The threshing floor is when we will separate what you meant for evil, my God meant for good. You thought I was going to stumble, but God says I'm going to pick you up. You thought it would kill me, but God says I know CPR. You're right, it took me out, but he's got resurrecting power. You meant it for evil. It's not even what I'm preaching about. What's up? What's up? God. Yeah, I don't even know what that's about, but it feels like somebody got breakthrough. It feels like I'm trying to keep it tight, because we got a journey to go on. So I'm going to give somebody about 10 seconds to thank God that it's two intentions happening at the same time. You're right, it's evil, but God said you're also right, it's going to be good. You're right that it's terrible, but it's also going to be good. You're right that it's painful, but it's also going to be purposeful. I got two things working at the same time. You're right that you're at the end of your rope, but God says I'm about to give you some wings. I got two things working at the same time. If you don't break down, I can't build you up. I got two things working at the same time. Woo! 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 Okay. What happens not just when God allows what the enemy meant for evil, he means for good? What happens not when evil turns out to be good? What happens when what's good starts to look evil? What happens when it felt like God was in it, God was on it, I know he was in it. How could it be that it could start off this good and end up looking this evil? Told the truth, but now everything's on the line. I thought it was good. This is why he didn't want us to have the knowledge of good and evil, because now what was good has evil consequences. What was good has a consequence that makes me feel like maybe I should have kept it to myself. Maybe I should have just stayed. Maybe I should have never moved. Maybe I should have never trusted. Maybe I should have never did the therapy. Maybe I should have never spoken up. It started off good. My heart was in the right place. I knew that God was in it. I knew that he was going to see me through. God, I stepped out on faith and it felt like it was good, but now it feels like I'm sinking and I'm drowning. God, help me to understand, how could good turn out to be evil? God, you told me you'd bring my people to me, and now my people are walking away from me. God, you told me that you would prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies, but now I'm hungry and I'm starving and I see my enemies eating. God, how is it possible that it started off good? Now, the business don't look good. The marriage don't look good. The children, it's not looking like what you promised. I know we at church and everybody want to act like God is good all the time, God is good. I know. But sometimes it's hard. I'm reminded of the widow in 1 Kings 17, who is preparing to die with her son. They're in a drought. She's down to her last as it relates to food. And God sends a prophet. He sends the prophet Elijah. And Elijah says, go grab me a drink. And she does that. And he says, also, get me some bread. And she says, actually, I only have enough for one cake. And me and my son, we're going to eat it. And then we're going to die. And Elijah says, go ahead and make the cake. And as much as you make it, it'll never run dry. In every area that you think you're going to end up running out, God says it may not feel like it's overflowing, but I'll make sure that there's just enough that should never run out. And all of a sudden, it looked like what was meant for evil has become good. And the text doesn't tell us that the woman celebrated. It just suggests that she settled into good. But then we read a little bit further, and her son dies. Now, wait a minute. God, you saved me when I was ready to die. You gave me a taste for more. You gave me an expectancy that there was going to be more. And I started adjusting to the reality that I could trust what was good. But now Elijah, the prophet, is here and my son is dying. How could something good end up looking like it was evil? And she is mad because she doesn't understand. Did you not come into this house to bless me only for the tables to turn? And now I'm in mourning. God, how did you allow this to happen? She's begging the prophet to make a difference. And the prophet doesn't really know what to say to her, but he takes the body of the boy into the upper room of her home. And he gives us insight into what we need to do when we are questioning, God, how could good become evil? The question is not, is it still good? The true question is it still God? Because I cannot trust the knowledge that I have of good and evil, sometimes I can't ask God, is it good? God, is it evil? Because my definition and your definition may be two different things. So maybe what I need to be asking instead is, God, are you still in it? God, are you still here? Because at the end of the day, I don't want to be outside of the will of God. I don't care how good it is. If it ain't God, I don't want it. I don't care how much money it is. If it ain't God, I don't want it. I don't want to just settle for good. I want to know, is it God? I can't trust my knowledge. My knowledge has been skewed. My knowledge has been hijacked by the culture. My knowledge tells me that sexing and drinking is the way to joy. I can't trust this knowledge that I have. But God, is it still God? Is it still God? Is it still God? Are you still in it? God, are you still in it? God, because if you're still in it, I'll still build it. God, if you're still in it, I believe you can breathe life into it. God, if you're still in it, I believe that you can make all things new. God, if you're still in it, I believe you'll give me strength to see it. God, if you're still in it, I believe you'll give me vision. God, if you're still in it, I believe you'll give me innovation. God, you got to understand what happens when God is in it. When God is in it, it never runs dry. God, if you're in it, then miracles can happen. God, if you don't learn to trust what God said over your disappointment, over your own insecurity, over your own inadequacy, if you aren't careful, your therapist will tell you it's self-sabotage. But if you get into the closet with the Holy Spirit will let you know, no, this is destiny sabotage. If you were just sabotaging yourself, we know that you would sacrifice you, because we've seen you sacrifice your own needs, your own will, your own dreams for everyone else before. Some of you are willing to lay down on the altar of self-sabotage, but God told me I needed to add some gravity to this to let you understand that this is destiny sabotage, that this is the destiny that God has for your life. This is the destiny that only God says you can fulfill. So if you don't learn to receive it, your destiny is on the line. I've always wondered, I'm almost finished. Listen, I always wondered, Mary and Zacharias actually have similar responses when the angel of the Lord visits them and tells them that they're going to have children. When the angel of the Lord visits Mary, Mary says, "How can this be? Because I have not known a man." Zacharias doesn't quite say, how can this be, but he questions it too. But Zacharias ends up mute when he questions God. And Mary ends up free. The difference between what they asked, though, is Mary said, "How can this be?" And Zacharias says, "How can I know this?" One is about technicality. The other is about an inner knowing that I need to have in order to trust it. I wish I could say that the way God gave it to me. Zacharias wants to know, how do I turn a word into a knowing? How do I take a prophecy into a knowing? How do I walk this thing out with confidence? How do I do it with certainty? Mary just wants to know, how are you going to do it? Zacharias says, I want to know this thing in my soul. I want to know it. Does anybody want to know in this room? I want to know that no weapon formed against me will prosper. I don't want to be afraid every time I see a weapon. I don't want to be afraid anytime I feel like I'm losing. I want to know that you're faithful. I want to know that you're righteous. I want to know that you are a deliverer. I want to know that you got that child. I want to know that you got that marriage. I want to know that you have that business. I don't want to just have a feeling. I want to know down in my soul, because who I am when I have a knowing is different than who I am when I'm sitting on the fence wondering. When I walk with a knowing, it doesn't matter what anyone says about it, because I have a knowing that God is not a man that he shall lie. I'm not talking about something that God told me he might do. I'm not talking about something that God says maybe we'll see, maybe we won't. When God gives me a word, I want to possess that word. I want to take that word and I want to work that word with confidence and power and strategy and innovation, because I know if I do my part, that God says the rest of it is already taken care of. I want to talk to somebody who's been walking around second guessing what God said, trying to understand. How can I know this thing? And I want you to know. You got to know it. When we get into our text, Zacharias has come to the point where it is time for him to name John. We're in Luke 1:57. Elizabeth has given birth, and he's seen at least 10 months of God taking a word and turning it into something tangible. He's still mute. She gives birth, though, and he's still mute. So it wasn't just about when she gave birth, then he would finally be able to speak again. He's still mute. This moment in the text is when he goes from being mute and able to speak again. And I recognize that part of the reason why this moment matters so much, this moment where he must confirm what John's name will be, it matters so much because he has to make sure that that word that has been concentrated, that word that received depth, that word that was perfected in him over time, we got to make sure that when it's time for him to actually release it into the world, when it's time for him to release it into his community, that he doesn't shrink it in order to fit in, that he doesn't get so prideful that he starts saying, well, I made it to this side, now I'll take over. No, I got to make sure that you stay mute long enough to make sure that when you open your mouth reflects what I said, that when you release your gift, that gift reflects what I said. I know some of you have been waiting to be discovered for so long, and you've been wondering, God, why is it that my voice has been silent? Why is it that I'm not the one who is out there doing it, and I see other people doing it? But I hear God saying, because I got to make sure that when I release you, that you release what I gave you and not what you wanted it to be, that you release what I gave you and not what they said it should be, that you release what I gave you and not what your mama said it should be and not what your cousin said it should be. I want to make sure that you don't lose what I gave you when it's time for it to be released. And it is important that Zacharias does this well, because Zacharias is John's forerunner. Somebody ought to preach this for Father's Day. But it talks about the role of a father in this text, to set an environment for his son to be all that he can be. This is the moment that everyone is waiting for, because what God gave him is going to shock the community. What God gave him is going to shock the culture. And if he doesn't set an atmosphere for his son to step into it, he's going to make it harder on his son than it has to be. But because he has decided that I'm going to do what God told me to do, he didn't even realize that his obedience was going to pave the way for his son to not have to work as hard as he had to work for. I want to talk to somebody who needs to understand that it's bigger than you, who needs to understand that the generations are coming after you. It is not just about you and your mouth and your praise. It's about the generations that are coming up behind you. Oh God, when I was studying this text, God told me, trying to stop hollering, God told me that Zacharias had to get to a place of knowing. He had to get to a place of being solid and steadfast. Because what John was going to do in the earth would be foreign and unknown. He would look like a wild man to everyone else. And if he didn't come to a place of knowing, he could not allow John to invade the earth with the unknown. God, help me to say this. You got to know it. Because when it comes out of you, it's going to look foreign. It's going to look unknown. It's going to look strange. It's going to look weird. And if you don't know it, then somebody will mess around and say you don't deserve it. If you don't know it, then someone could convince you that there's no space for it. But when you know that you know that you know, it doesn't matter what happens. It may be unknown to you, but it is known to me. It may be unknown to you that I would be up here, but it is known to me because God placed a knowing down in my spirit. Everyone else can be surprised when the baby graduates. I'm not going to be surprised because God told me that when that baby was in kindergarten, that baby was going to make it to the other side. Everyone else can be surprised that I made it to the other side with my mind, but I'm not surprised because God gave me a knowing. God told me I'm going to call you into the unknown, and it's going to look weird to everyone on the outside looking in, but it's not going to be weird to you because you're going to have a deposit of what is known about you. I hear God saying, I'm not surprised that came out. Oh, God. Everybody else was surprised. But God, John, Zacharias, and Elizabeth were not surprised because they had been in the secret place. They had learned to get still enough with the word that God gave them that even though it shocked everyone else, it was right on schedule for them. They didn't know that God had already named this child before the child took its first breath, that God had already named that business before you had the first employee, that God had already named that house before you even applied for the loan, that God had already named that deal before they even came up to you and presented it to you. And everyone else could be surprised, but I knew it was coming. I know we don't like to preach about prideful messages, and this isn't about pride. This is about a knowing. I hear God saying, let it catch everyone else by surprise, but you stand by and you see the salvation of the Lord because I knew it was coming. I knew you were going to do it. I knew it was going to come through. I knew you were going to release me. I knew you had a place for me. I know better than to believe that my last days are going to be worse than my former days. I know better than to believe that this evil is going to have the last say. I know better than to believe that though he slay me, I can't trust him. I know better.